Recently, you might have noticed a friend bought a new house, a coworker got a car, or someone you graduated with shared amazing vacation photos from their latest trip. Meanwhile, you're wondering, how did they afford all this? Am I falling behind? The truth is, the financial scorecard most people use is broken. According to Federal Reserve data, nearly 37% of Americans would struggle to cover a $400 emergency with cash or savings. Yet many of those same people look successful on the surface. That's because looking wealthy and being wealthy are totally different things. One is based on appearances, the other is based on financial reality. If you're comparing yourself to what you can see, you may be missing how well you're actually doing. In fact, there's a good chance you're further ahead than you think. So let's go through 5 signs you're doing better financially than most people, even if it doesn't feel like it. And make sure to stay for number 5 because it's one of the strongest indicators of real wealth, yet almost nobody notices it. The first sign you're doing better financially than you think is surprisingly simple. Something unexpected can happen, and it doesn't completely derail your life. Imagine your car gets a flat tomorrow, your air conditioner dies in the middle of summer, your dog suddenly needs a trip to the vet. Would it be frustrating? Yeah. Would you enjoy paying for it? Of course not. But would it send you into a financial crisis? That's the real question. According to bank rate surveys, many Americans would need to borrow money, use a credit card, or go into debt to cover a major unexpected expense. That's why an emergency fund is so powerful. It's not flashy, growing into a lot of return, or very exciting, but it's critical as it creates stability. A lot of people underestimate this because emergency savings don't look impressive from the outside. If you think about it, nobody brags about having 6 months of expenses saved or shows off their emergency fund on Instagram. But that money buys something incredibly valuable: peace of mind. It allows you to face problems without panic. It gives you options when life inevitably throws something your way. And if you've built even a modest financial cushion, you're already ahead of millions of people. But here's what's interesting: having money sitting in savings isn't actually the strongest predictor of financial success. There are plenty of people with healthy savings accounts who are quietly falling behind every year. The next sign reveals whether you're truly moving forward financially or simply standing still. Most people judge their financial progress by just one thing: income. But wealthy people tend to focus on something completely different: net worth. Because income tells you what comes in, net worth tells you the bigger picture of what stays. Imagine two people. One earns 150,000 per year, the other earns 80,000. Most people instantly assume the first person is doing better. But what if the higher earner spends nearly everything? What if they finance expensive vehicles, carry credit card debt, and save barely anything? Meanwhile, the second person steadily invests, avoids unnecessary debt, and slowly builds assets. Who wins over the next decade? This is why net worth matters. According to Federal Reserve data, many households have far less wealth than people assume. A high income alone doesn't guarantee financial success. If your assets are increasing year after year while your debts are shrinking, you're building momentum. And wealth creation is often much less dramatic and slower than social media makes it seem. Usually, it's not one giant breakthrough, it's hundreds of small decisions repeated consistently. A little more invested, a little less debt, slightly more ownership, gradually more freedom. At first, it feels insignificant, but over time, those small actions compound into something powerful. And here's the surprising part: you don't necessarily need a huge income to make this happen, because one of the strongest indicators of future wealth has almost nothing to do with how much you earn. In fact, some of the highest income households in America completely fail at it. The third sign that you're doing better than average financially is that you invest consistently. Not perfectly, but consistently. Many people believe investing is only for wealthy people, but in reality, investing is often how people become wealthy in the first place. According to research from Fidelity and Vanguard, long term investors who consistently contribute often outperform those constantly trying to predict market movements and time the market. Why? Because successful investing is usually more about behavior than intelligence. The market rewards patience, not excitement. Maybe you're contributing to a 401k. Maybe you're investing through a Roth IRA. Maybe it's just a few $100s every month. It may not feel life changing today, but that's exactly how compounding works. At first, the progress feels painfully slow, and then one day the growth begins accelerating, and eventually your money starts generating more money than your own contributions. That's when things get interesting. In fact, studies have shown that many millionaires built their wealth not through massive salaries, but through decades of consistent investing. The key word there is decades, because wealth often grows quietly for years before suddenly becoming more noticeable. But interestingly enough, investing isn't where most financial progress is won or lost. The real battle happens before the money ever reaches your investing account. And this next sign explains why some people making six figures still feel broke. Here's sign number 4. Your spending hasn't increased every time your income has increased. This sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest financial habits to master. Economists call it lifestyle inflation. You get a raise, you upgrade the apartment, then the car, then the vacations, and then the subscriptions. And suddenly, somehow, you're earning more money than ever before while still feeling financially stuck. Research in behavioral economics shows that people quickly adapt to higher levels of spending. The excitement fades, but the payments remain. This is why two people earning the exact same salary can end up in completely different financial situations. One spends every raise, the other saves and invests part of it. Fast forward 10 years, and the difference can be enormous. If you manage to avoid upgrading every aspect of your life every time your income increased, you're quietly doing something that many people struggle with. You're creating a gap between what you earn and what you spend, and that gap is where wealth is born. And here's the crazy part: even if you save consistently, invest regularly, and avoid lifestyle inflation, there's still one factor that often determines whether someone feels financially secure or financially trapped. Most people don't recognize it until they finally experience it. The fifth and final sign that you're doing better financially than you think is that you've created financial breathing room. This may be the most valuable sign on the entire list. Financial breathing room means you're not constantly operating on the edge, and you even have some degree of financial freedom. Maybe you can handle a surprise expense. You aren't living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you could survive 3 to 6 months if your income stopped, or could walk away from a bad situation without immediate financial panic. That flexibility changes everything. The bigger value with this, though, is that according to numerous financial wellness studies, money related stress remains one of the biggest sources of anxiety for adults. And when people feel trapped financially, it impacts nearly every area of life: relationships, health, career decisions, even happiness. But when you have breathing room, your decision making changes. You stop making decisions from a place of fear. You start acting from opportunity. You can negotiate better, can take calculated risk, and can think long term. And perhaps most importantly, you start gaining something extremely valuable: freedom. Because real wealth isn't measured by how impressed strangers are, it's measured by how much control you have over your own life. And once you start experiencing that kind of flexibility, something strange starts to happen. Your entire relationship with money changes. You stop chasing appearances and start building security and choices. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else and start focusing on your own progress. So if you recognize yourself in even one or two of these signs, give yourself some credit. You may be much closer to financial success than you realize. And if you have 3, 4, or even all 5 of these signs, chances are you're doing significantly better than the average person, even if it doesn't always feel that way. I'm curious, which of these 5 signs do you already have in place? Let me know in the comments below. On this channel, we dive into the real strategies, habits, and financial decisions that help people build wealth, escape the paycheck to paycheck cycle, and achieve financial freedom. If that's the future you're working toward, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.